welcome to Media Lit, where we treat each piece of media like great literature. I'm your host, Randy Elaine, and joining me, as always, is the well-rested, well-traveled Kris Ingersoll.
Man, great to hang with you as always. I get to meet a new podling tonight, which always revs my engine, and it's homework for a program that I had never watched before. So this is like my kind of media lit episode. I'm stoked. How are you, pal?
I spent a huge chunk of the day working on a puzzle, 1,000 pieces, quotes from 1980s movies, uh, including Wax On, Wax Off.
How topical. But before we get too far into it, please let me introduce our special guest. We'll talk about why that is just so topical. But I am thrilled to welcome our newest podling to bring into the classroom Jeff, the chairman. No mere council member, though no one is mere. The chairman of the United States Department of Nerds. Jeff, welcome to Media Lit.
Thank y'all so much for having me on. I know we have been planning this episode for what feels like forever, and we're finally here. And I am so excited to be on. I know Randy is already on the Council of Nerds, and by the end of this
Yeah.
episode, Kris, you may very well join him.
One can only dream. Jeff, thrilled you're here, man. We're trying to get better at the top of the pod to invite our guests to plug their socials, any of their work out there in the world. So please, have at it. Where can folks find you, and what are you working on?
All right, well, you can find me on the United States Department of Nerds on Facebook or the USDN podcast, basically across all social media platforms, except for Blue Sky, where I am just the USDN chairman. There's an underscore in there too, at USDN underscore podcast or USDN underscore chairman. And like I said, I'm on all social media platforms for the most part. I'm also looking for new interviewees to bring on the podcast. So if you know a comic book artist or a comic book writer who has a new project upcoming that wants to come on the podcast and kickstart their project with us, we are the podcast to do it with. That is my passion and my bread and butter right there, I think. And I've really enjoyed doing those interviews and kickstarting new comic books with their creators.
Yeah,
Absolutely love that.
I got to shout out Jeff, the chairman, for just being a totally natural podling. He is always out there celebrating comics writers, interviewing them, reviewing their books. Back in January, he was kind enough to host me on a live episode, in fact, of United States Department of Nerds. We got to talk Skeleton Crew, and Jeff even introduced me to a show I had missed, which was Creature Commandos, which I had
Oh,
a really, really, really fun time chatting about with all of
And they're
you.
working on season 2.
yeah, they are.
And if that's not enough to get you to USDN, Jeff's just an awesome dude, always supporting and resharing his friends and taking
Oh,
care of the people out
shucks.
there.
Now you're
Uh,
just buttering my biscuits.
it's what I do. It's what I do. Uh, but yeah, Kris, why is it so appropriate that Jeff loves to introduce me to television shows?
Well, he's introduced us both to yet another classic, something that, let's admit to ourselves and to the podlings out there at home, we've slept on.
Yeah.
We've been irresponsible in our lack of viewing for what was a massively popular show from the time it debuted till it got picked up and continued. So, thanks to Jeff, Randy and I have now both watched the 3-part series finale for Cobra Kai, and we're going to dig into it tonight. But before we do, before we get too far into the media lit of it all, I gotta know if you two were going to strap on a gi, tie up your belt, black belts, I assume, which
Naturally.
dojo are you fighting for? Jeff, we'll go to you first.
Ooh, I'm gonna go Cobra Kai, just so I can be just a
Yeah.
little dirty.
Get away with one here and there.
Exactly, exactly.
Love that.
Maybe an eye poke.
Nice.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
don't, set out to systematically break someone's back and we're cool.
Ooh, never, never.
Absolutely brutal. Couple of kicks to the back of the head, though, won't kill anybody.
Sure, we'll get to Sensei
They make
Wolf
them a little
later.
smarter. Some people actually need that. Oh, that's a swift kick to the butt. My
Yeah.
bad.
A
Not
couple
the
of
head.
butt.
It's a swift kick to the butt.
I've had 1 or 2 of those in my time.
Pretty sure we all deserved it when we got it.
That's right. Randy, what about you, buddy? Which dojo you, putting on the gi for?
Yeah, listen, I love what this finale had to say about finding balance, but I've got to be true to myself. I've got to be true to my heart. I am Miyagi-Do all the way. Playing defense, avoiding aggression, not winning through fighting, but winning through balance really speaks to me. Do I achieve that level of peace in every moment of my day-to-day life? I'd be lying if I said that were true, but it's something to aspire to, and I think I would benefit from that wisdom.
Yeah, Randy, a wonderful answer. Maybe an expected answer from a good friend that I know so well.
That is a
Uh,
very Randy answer.
Oh yeah.
yeah, love that. Um, and I think I'm aligned with you there. I'm also gonna choose, Miyagi-Do, despite the fact that perhaps, especially in like a competitive scenario, a contact sports scenario, I'm maybe a little bit more on the aggressive side. I think it's because perhaps Cobra Kai is a more natural fit. I need the philosophy, I need the wisdom of Miyagi-Do. To your point, Randy, it's like sort of aspirational, right? Maybe you don't embody that peace in your everyday life as much as you might like, that inner calm, that perfect balance, but we can strive for it. So yeah, I've got to go to Miyagi-Do and let Daniel-san make me scrub a few planks, paint a few walls.
Beautiful. I've got to ask you both a quick, just selfish question. I wear glasses, and I'm just curious if you think Johnny Lawrence would tell me to throw these away and grab a cooler pair.
The good news is I think they're gonna pass the cool test. Second kid he's not told his glasses suck. He's just, a total dork in general. I think you're both Jeff just slid on a pair of glasses for the podlings at home, and you're both looking
Yeah,
wicked sharp. So,
I
no,
think
I
they're
think you get away
almost
with it.
exactly the same too.
Yeah.
beautiful. Yes, we're looking wizened. I've got the spectacles on, and you can probably tell I'm chomping at the bit to talk about this episode. So we're gonna jump into my synopsis. I think I'm really gonna need some help from my panelists today because I tried to write a synopsis for three lengthy episodes of television that really had a love for their characters, took the time to close out every arc, gave everyone some screen time, some accolades. I'm gonna leave a lot on the editing table there, so if the 2 of you can step in and let me know what you thought was most essential, that'll be helpful, but here we go with the synopsis. We open on a hype reel for the last leg of the Sekai Taikai, and Johnny Lawrence is heartbroken that the promoters only clipped a few seconds of a 1-hour interview that he put on a whole damn suit for. As the event kicks off, we experience a moment of silence for Quan, who was recently killed in the thick of an inter-dojo brawl. The sanctity of the moment is undercut by the sound of crunchy nachos. After a bleak opening for Miyagi-Do, in which ace fighter Robbie Keane is rendered unable to compete by a cheap shot from the Iron Dragons, everybody has to do some personal reckoning. Daniel LaRusso works through his mixed feelings about a dark chapter in his late mentor, Mr. Miyagi's life, but has the epiphany that he and his dojo have nothing to prove on the mat. Balance and peace are the most important. In light of this epiphany, Daniel supports his daughter Sam's decision to drop out of the competition and make room for her friend Tori. Meanwhile, Johnny finally finds peace with his abusive former mentor, John Kreese, who has found the light in a big way at the close of the series. In an act of forgiveness and respect, Kreese hands the Cobra Kai dojo back over to Johnny. Miyagi-Do withdraws from the competition, and Miguel Diaz steps in to replace Quan as the lead fighter for Cobra Kai. It is on. As the big title match approaches, the Miyagi-Do team steps up to help the new Cobra Kai prepare for the title matches. Daniel even helps arrange an affordable rental situation for Johnny to help him reclaim and reignite the old Cobra Kai dojo. Meanwhile, all of the young couples solidify their college plans, friendships, and relationships. Sam and Miguel show an impressive amount of emotional maturity as they acknowledge that their lives are about to take them in different directions. They warm our hearts You might say that they occupy our thoughts, even.
Uh,
We check in with the bad guys to watch walking oil slick Terry Silver demand perfection from the mustache twirling Sensei Wolf. Sensei Wolf does his best Sean Payton impersonation and continues to send ace fighter Axel after sensitive body parts. He literally asks Axel to break Miguel's back. In the title matches, Tori overcomes her failing confidence to make a mess of the Iron Dragon's back-flipping media darling, Zara, and Miguel finds his inner strength to defeat Axel. Axel also wins, morally, when he finally tells Wolf to fuck off and quits the Iron Dragon dojo. Still, the event is all tied up. The tiebreaker? A final 3-point match between the senseis from each dojo. Johnny is apprehensive about battling the younger, stronger, and sadisticer Sensei Wolf, but his found family, most notably former rival Daniel LaRusso, help him find his confidence and stick it out for the win. At the pivotal moment, Johnny thinks back to his 1984 fight with Daniel and remembers to patiently let his opponent approach instead of running into danger. It works. We get a luxurious series of feel good farewells, but most importantly, we learn that Cobra Kai and Miyagi Do have joined forces to bring balance to the world of karate with a healthy blend of offense and defense. Daniel is a stronger mentor, and Johnny is redeemed. Mission accomplished. Kris, anything you'd like to add?
no. No, nothing to add. That was a brilliant attempt to summarize these 3 episodes, considering, to your point, they took so much time to tie up so many story arcs here to give every character, some closure. So shout out to your dig at Sean Payton, brilliant. And what did you call Zara? Backflipping social media darling?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
very, very, very well done. I loved where the classic Randy Spice snuck in there as you were talking a little bit more directly about the Iron Dragons. Brilliant.
I guess I should throw in just a little PS for John Kreese blowing up himself and Terry Silver on a yacht to
Chef kiss.
prevent Terry Silver from abducting Johnny's family. Glad he didn't have to deal with that on top of fighting this sadistic little monster.
Chef kiss.
Absolutely chef's kiss, and I don't know how you would have begun to imply where the plot was implying it was gonna go at that point in the episode either, so it may be better to have just avoided it.
Those 3 episodes probably had if you loved '80s action,
Mm-hmm.
those last 3 episodes
Yes.
fulfilled your wildest dreams for you.
Mm-hmm.
Hallmarks of the genre, right?
Every single one of them,
Yeah.
from Rocky to anything with, Arnold in it
Yep.
and blowing shit up.
I was
That was
getting
what it was beautiful.
Seagal, there's
Seagal,
it was all in there.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing missing was Predator and Alien.
I don't know if aliens were ready for this show.
Hey, when we get the Legacy series in another 15 years, they can add aliens.
Love it.
I'll
Well,
be here.
Randy, a brilliant job as always. Thank you for the synopsis, but it's time to talk about why Jeff loves this show so much. And we'll talk about some of our personal connections to the franchise as well, but we'll keep this thing focused on Jeff. So, Jeff, tell me, what's an early or important memory you have connected to the Karate Kid franchise? Do you have an association for that property with any of the relationships in your life?
So for me, it was growing up with my grandparents and watching this kind of as a family,
Mm.
and the just the good memories of still having my grandparents here and watching this with them, and that was what it was for me. I tie a lot of things in my life back to them, including being this huge wrestling fan that I am.
Mm.
It all ties back to my grandparents and just that was how we spent, you know, our weekends and our nights, you know, watching those types of shows. And for me, that's what Cobra Kai is kind of like this heartfelt memory from being a kid. I think I was a kid when these first come out and being just not really being able to afford to go to the theater, but when they would come out on the TV, we would be able to watch them. And so for me, that's kind of what I tie it back to is that those happy memories as a child.
Yeah, so much of what gives these stories weight for us are the people that we shared them with. That's really lovely.
Yeah, I think that was a perfect answer. I think you started to speak to this a little bit already, Jeff. But you mentioned you're a wrestling fan. You mentioned that like your love for this franchise goes way back. So I was wondering, is there any way that this franchise or this Cobra Kai series specifically has influenced your style or your interests or your values, the balance that you try to find in your own life?
I think for me, it much like Daniel and Johnny, just finding that happy medium in your life where, Johnny is still this adult child. And then, LaRusso is like this grown up, mature adult that we're all supposed to be. And it's kind of like, where do I find the middle ground for that? And I think that's something that we all kind of want to be. We don't want to be the stick in the mud LaRusso from the beginning of Cobra Kai in season one, you know, or the giant man child that was Johnny Lawrence in season one. We kind of want to be them at the end of this series where
Mm,
we have set aside our differences. We found this happy medium where we're both kind of, you know, we're not, the stick in the mud. We're not the man child no more, but we can still have fun and we can still have this serious side to ourselves, and to me, that's kind of what podcast is for us.
mm,
It really is. It's where we can come here, express ourselves as adults, but also have that fun side to it as well and kinda make semi-inappropriate jokes with our friends. And friends we don't get to meet in person often or
hmm.
never, but we're still, like, friends, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
But
yeah.
this is kinda like our linkage,
Mm,
and so for me, it was like, you wanna find that happy medium that Johnny and Daniel ended up having together, and that to me is, like, the show, is those 2. Daniel, you know you know, becoming this adult, but also not taking himself so seriously anymore because of Johnny, and then Johnny actually finally growing up,
Mhm.
but still being Johnny.
mhm.
So, that's me.
That's
That's
really beautiful, man. I no, I love that because it's something without having watched the whole series, Randy and I were talking ahead of this recording, about our experience with these 3 episodes and something that we had keyed in on, the idea that these folks can may we all be able to grow and mature into the best versions of ourselves, right? Not into something unrecognizable from who we are at our core, who we've always been, but the best version of ourselves. That's really well said.
Yeah, I was joking around a few minutes ago just about, Johnny, poking and prodding at his new students. And in those closing moments, I was like, okay, I can tell this is the callback to where this series began. Like this is
you
the Johnny Lawrence that everyone fell in love with that like really helped this show like hit the scene so hard to be at the center of the conversation. So I'm glad
so
that there's still
it
room for
hit the
that.
scene on YouTube as, like, a Johnny Lawrence thing,
Mhm.
and then Daniel was like, "Hey, you wanna just, pitch it to Amazon and just kinda see what" or not yeah, Amazon. No, Netflix, I'm sorry, Netflix.
Yeah.
Netflix, yeah.
And, like, Daniel kinda came in as, like, a producer on this, and then the writers actually came in and was like, "Yo, let's do this?"
Yep.
And that's what was really cool. Netflix was like, "Dude, this is blowing up. Let's pick it up?"
Mhm.
And that's what I thought was kinda cool about the whole thing is this tiny little thing and, like, the Johnny Lawrence show as I've been calling it, me and Ben, that was, like, our thing. It's like, it was the Johnny Lawrence show.
Oh yeah.
When it was on YouTube, and then even still, like, the story all very much centered on Johnny Lawrence, whether it didn't seem like that at times, but it was the Johnny Lawrence show. We can recognize it for what it is, and it was
Yeah,
done beautifully.
it was like a
Mhm.
redemption project. It was like a chance to let that character shine, right? Um, Really cool they were able to turn it to such a celebration of all the nostalgia that folks have associated with
Yeah.
with this show and other '80s media.
Yeah.
So we've now established, I think, how well you love this property and the films that inspired it. So please forgive me, Jeff, in advance. We're new friends. I have to ask you, you love this piece of media, but does it have any flaws?
Oh, um, so this is gonna pain me to say. I do wish we coulda got I love the fact that they broke it up into kinda like 3 parts, 5 episodes apart, but I do wish that we coulda got a little bit more from, the
Mm.
Korean side of Cobra Kai. I mean, we
Mhm,
know what happened there with, her, grandfather, but the just what happened to those kids, and we do see a little bit of it,
mhm,
but I woulda kinda liked to have seen, like, maybe another 5 or 10 minutes of that to kinda see how they everything that happened there, and then also, like, some of the other kids who didn't get as much of a closeout of their stories as some of the others did of the primaries.
mhm,
So I'd have liked to seen a little bit more from the other kids. Even though we see some when they're at Cobra Kai and they're in their gis and Johnny is doing this Johnny thing, and the guys who know, they're the kids that have been there for the entire run of the show, but we didn't see much of them, you
Mm,
know? So if there was any kind of really, like, flaw, it's like, yeah, they closed it out beautifully for, like, the main characters, but I would have liked to had seen a little bit more from, the characters that we kind of, like, grew on us, but we didn't get a
mhm.
lot of them?
No, that makes sense because I could tell that I would have had a great time with the Binary Bros.
Dude, they were
Uh
phenomenal, and I thought they did, like, a really good thing with those guys and how their story was split, and I think, the way they did, Daniel's son in the earlier part, I think it was, like, episode 12, I think is when he had his kinda, like, growing moment with Kenny and the apology and that kinda
yeah.
stuff, and him taking his own, like, colon blow, so to speak, because that's how Kenny got that bad nickname, but that's something y'all have
Okay.
to go back and actually it's like I was telling Randy earlier, you gotta make it a weekend, start on a Friday night, watch the movies, wake up Saturday, and start at season 1 and
Mhm.
watch it all the way through.
Yeah, I don't have
I'm
enough to go on. I'm just thinking, like, was it too many Uncrustables? Because we got
No,
nice.
Devin. So, and she finally comes clean about everything, and in that final season, they said, "Hey, I'm sorry, that was me, I did that." So, that kind of, like, cleared some air, she felt really bad about it. Like, she was, like, visibly, like, you could tell, like, it was weighing so heavily on her conscience
yeah,
that
yeah.
she just had to spill the beans on it, so to speak.
There you go. Alright, well, I appreciate that, Jeff. Now, we haven't done an episode of Media Lit with this format in a minute. Last year, we did a deep dive into the X-Files, which Chris and I were kind of incomplete fans on. We had a little bit more X-Files under our belt than Cobra Kai. Um, but what we did back then is we talked to our
Just to point out,
guests.
the X-Files were phenomenal until they brought on T2.
Oh,
T2 kinda ruined it for me. He
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
his character and his vibe for the show just didn't fit what was going, and then he got inserted into it, and I kind of felt like, oh, I just you kinda killed it for me. I don't
Right, right, right.
you know?
Keep it with Mulder and Scully, man.
That's
That's
all
what
you
I'm
need.
all
That's
about.
all you need. And Ryan Coogler better do it right, is all I'm saying.
Well, luckily, back when we did the X Files, we had a guest who was an expert, and once again, we find ourselves with an expert on Cobra Kai. So we're gonna play a little mini game here, Jeff, where Chris and I are gonna take turns sharing something that we think we know about the broader Cobra Kai, and you're gonna let us know how right or how wrong we are with our theories. So Chris and I both prepared 3 items. We're gonna go one at a time, and if we have any overlap, we'll just jump ahead. So you don't
Okay,
necessarily have to go
let's
through
go.
all 6. Chris, you want to kick things off for us? What's something you think that you know about Cobra Kai?
Uh, I think the series starts with Daniel, like, almost locally famous. Like, he's a celebrity, right? Daniel's son has enjoyed, nothing but success since leaving, to the point where he is I guess that's what I wanna convey. He's a local celebrity when this series starts, to Johnny's sort of degenerate loser character. We'll put loser being the key word.
So you are correct. Daniel is a car salesman for high-end, like, I think he was, like, Acuras or something like that, or Mercedes and BMWs, and
Mhm,
his
mhm.
face is literally plastered all over the town on billboards and stuff, and
Yes.
Johnny is just barely scrapping by drinking, what are they, the Miller Party Pats, the little round boys,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
I think that's
and
what was
just
in
go
my head.
he's a handyman, kind of, like, if you wanna call it that. And he has never found his way since high school, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
Everybody knows a handful of those people, I think, that just never "I was cool in high school, and I'm still cool now." No,
Yep.
you're not.
Yeah, peaked in
But
peaked in high
that was
school.
he and that's what I loved about this is we do see Johnny grow out of that and become an adult. But you are dead on. You're absolutely
Cool.
right.
All right, I've got a tough act to follow here. But Chris, I was coming from a similar place as you. And what I was imagining is when this series begins back in season one, not only are they in different places with their lives, but I was thinking in their early interactions, I would imagine that Daniel is often quite patronizing or at the very least pities Johnny a little bit in a way that must really piss Johnny off.
You are spot on. When their paths finally recross, it was very much that because their paths finally recross when Johnny goes, "I'm gonna reopen Cobra Kai because that's all I know."
Hmm.
And then when Daniel gets wind of Cobra Kai reopening, he immediately goes on, "Oh, hell no, not in my valley," you know? And they immediately it's right back to that. But then it becomes, like, almost like a pity or he feels sorry for Johnny, and he goes out above and beyond kind of what you would think, because I don't know if it's pity or if it's like he understands what Johnny went through because he went through something similar when he did join Cobra Kai in season 2, I think it was, or season 3. Or not season 2 or season 3, but like the 2nd or 3rd movie, I can't remember which it was when Mr. Miyagi stopped wasn't gonna train him anymore, and then he went to Terry Silver's Cobra Kai.
Okay.
And, but he gave him a job, he tried to help him out as much as possible because he did feel somewhat guilty for how things turned out for Johnny at the in the you
Yeah.
know, so he did go above and beyond, for Johnny to a certain degree, but, how much of it was pity or how much of it was just him but there was a lot of patronizing, don't get it wrong. Yeah, he was definitely like, "Dude, you need to freaking grow up, you're an adult.
I love
It's
it.
time you got a real job and, you did real adult responsibilities."
It's perfect stuff. Chris, what's something else that you think you know about Cobra Kai?
Well, I already doubt it based on what I just heard Jeff lay out. So I'll share it anyways, but I feel like you're going to correct me here. I was under the impression that Johnny, because of Daniel's celebrity, like I think the reason I had the idea of Daniel as a celebrity was that I remember from the early images of the first season floating out there in the social world, like
Mm.
Johnny seeing those plastered posters everywhere. I think I made the assumption that Daniel stayed in the game and his fame has come through a continuation of an association with karate. And so I assumed that Cobra Kai was was Johnny's punch back and his chance to try and counteract all of Daniel's success with his own dojo, as if
Mm.
Daniel already had his and Cobra Kai was now an answer to it.
So, no, actually, I think it was after the 3rd movie, Johnny just left karate altogether pretty much after his trip to Tokyo, and when he came back, I think his
Mhm.
focus kinda turned to high school or getting through high school, going to college, and, becoming the adult that he knew that he wanted to be to help his mom. Because remember his mom he did have a single mom, they
Yep.
did struggle, the move from New Jersey to California or whatever it was from the original movie. So it definitely wasn't karate, it was just definitely, his success in business and that kind of stuff that Johnny envied, and also he still felt the sting from that crane kick in the 1st movie.
Mhm. So, Miyagi-Do was in fact a reaction to Cobra Kai,
Correct.
the opposite of
Um,
Superfan.
Ah.
it was all a well, if he's gonna bring back Cobra Kai, then I need to bring back Miyagi-Do to combat
Mhm.
the Cobra Kai teachings.
Okay.
Beautiful. All right, well, you set me up once again, Jeff, because my next thing that I think I know about Cobra Kai is listen. I've seen the original Karate Kid film many times. We had like the taped off the television VHS when I was a kid. It was a regular like sick day watch. I watched it a million times. I know I saw Karate Kid 2 more than once, but it's been a minute, and I don't think I've seen anything more than that. And the only reason I give you all this context is because even before Cobra Kai came out, one of the most common conversations I heard people have about the Karate Kid is like, the crane kick was illegal. Johnny was wronged. I've heard that in the fan conversation. So I would assume that Cobra Kai has a lot of fun with that concept, like questioning whether or not Daniel really deserved all of his glory for that crane kick. Did they play with that?
There was some in the earlier seasons of it, and Johnny just kinda, like, reminding Daniel that that's an illegal kick, and Daniel arguing that, "No, it is actually not." So, it was definitely some of that, and but it wasn't to a degree where it was obnoxious. It was done at the appropriate times, like, the writing on this was so phenomenal. Nothing was
Perfect.
overdone in my opinion. It was done in a way that where those jabs and those barbs from the movies bit just right at the
Perfect.
right times. So,
Perfect. I've got more on the crane kick later, but for now, Chris, do you have anything else that you think you know about Cobra Kai?
Okay, so this I gleaned from watching these 3 episodes, or at least I thought I did, but I was beginning to understand a dynamic with Johnny and his son who's older, different last name. Obviously there was an estrangement there, but I had the impression that his son turned to Daniel first. Daniel formed a relationship with the son before Johnny was able to.
so when Robbie came back into Johnny's life, it was just kind of because his mom, right? And he is like he didn't too much have a lot of respect for his dad at the time. So he's like, "How can I hurt my dad in the
Yep.
worst possible way?"
Mhm.
And that's trained at Miyagi-Do with Daniel.
That's exactly what
That's
I
where it's
thought.
gonna kick him where it hurts. So and that's how in the first few seasons are great character building for all of these great kids who played in this TV show, and they did a really good job of establishing kind of who they are, their characters, and then you got to watch them grow through, 3 more seasons, and it was done very well. Like I've said, I will compliment these writers until I'm blue in the face because they did such a phenomenal job.
Beautiful. And I'm going to end on a really serious one. The last thing that I think I know about Cobra Kai, and that is before John Kreese throws the stub of his cigar like a home run ball over the fence to blow up himself and Terry Silver on the yacht. In the previous seasons, have we watched John Kreese smoke at least a dozen other cigars over the course of those seasons? Yes or no?
It wouldn't be John Kreese if he wasn't smoking a cigar. So, yes, like, in the earlier seasons, there's even flashbacks to I think it was Nam for him and Terry Silvers or the Korean
Yep.
War, maybe one of the 2, and he is even smoking stogies there. So,
Yep.
yes, absolutely, that's 100% even in real life, I think he is a big cigar smoker.
Sure.
So,
That last one, he smoked down to the nub. I mean, that thing that stub he threw was a true stub.
Oh yeah,
it
we
really was. Like,
Cr-
he had been waiting there for a hot minute.
Yeah.
yeah, Chris and I are both from Massachusetts. I live within less than 15 minutes of the launching off point for Moby Dick. Chris is up north of
That's legit, that's
Boston.
cool.
Th This performer would look right at home on any dock in New England. Anytime he wanted to hang out there, he's just got the look. He's got the leathery, tough vibes.
Oh, yeah.
and he could pull it off.
He's a Gloucesterman for sure.
He
Get him
he
on.
he definitely comes off that way in real life as well, you know, he kinda has that tough guy image, you know, his
Mhm.
facial features, everything about him, and I think he just recently got in trouble for biting, um, like, he literally bit her,
Oh,
what's her
no.
name? Kwon Jae-sung. Not Kwon Jae-sung, that was the kid that got, what's her name? Um, Kim Da-yoon. Alicia Hannah Kim, her they were at a meet and greet at a Comic-Con, and they I don't know if there's some bickering or what, but he literally just bit her.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
At
So,
a fan convention this
at a
just
f
past
yeah.
June. I
Yeah.
Chris and I are furiously Googling over here. Yes.
Yeah, I think it was just, like, 2 weeks ago.
but
It was
it's
like a whole big thing, like, I think she even had him arrested for assault.
whoa.
Okay, he still needs some Miyagi dough,
He definitely
I
does.
suppose.
He's literally the real life villain.
He
So when you
blew up
say he
before
was,
he
like,
could.
right at home on the docks in Boston, absolutely.
Yeesh.
I
Well
could
then.
see him being a crabber out there. Or
Well,
lobster. Do y'all do crabs or
we do
lobsters?
lobster. I wasn't gonna
Okay.
correct you. It's lobster for us though,
I
yeah.
knew it was one of the 2.
Yeah.
I know they do a lot of crab down here, lobster up
Mhm.
there.
Yep. Yep. Boy, what a dour ending for the fans of that show. What
Oh, they're hardcore, man. It's like you have those franchises, and this is just one of those franchises where I feel like you can go to a mall on a Saturday or a Sunday, and there's gonna be somebody walking around with a Cobra Kai t-shirt on.
love
Mhm.
that.
You're gonna see it. You go to a convention or anything like that, somebody is gonna somewhere is gonna be wearing, you know, their mom or dad's old Cobra Kai t-shirt, maybe they have a new one, but there's gonna be a Cobra
Mhm.
Kai t-shirt in the audience somewhere.
Well, now I'm more equipped to recognize it, so I'll keep an eye out.
Nice.
Okay, I guess it's time, Randy, to do the real media lit thing and talk about this episode
Mhm.
as literature. Before we get into our usual all panelist mode, though, we're going to keep it focused on Jeff for just a few more questions. First from me, Jeff, Randy, and I, as you know, we went into this three-part finale as total newbies, as clean and blind as we could be. Um,
Mhm.
so, what are some things that you wish we had experienced along the way to get even more out of these three episodes?
The the growth of these characters
Mhm.
through the first, you know, 4.5 seasons leading up to this grand finale, as I like to call it, of these 3 episodes. To me, this finale went 3 episodes, 13, 14, 15. But just the character growth of all these characters and where they've started and where they went at the very end is that's like the one thing. And I know I told you this earlier, Randy. I'm like, you have to go and watch the entire thing just
Mhm.
because the character depth that these kids developed, even with Stingray, you know, I don't know, y'all didn't get to really see him,
Yeah,
except for maybe the one episode.
he was the guy at the end.
Brady
Yeah,
Beard at the end.
yep, the Stingray beard. Yep, that's what's his
Yeah.
name? Paul Walker Hauser.
Mhm.
Brilliant actor, but you really get to see him in the earlier parts again as a man child, and then kind of like, but he kind of did that circle moment similar to how Johnny did, and he became a serious adult. And
Nice.
no, when I say serious adult, he was still Stingray in every bit of the term of him using the name Stingray. But just the way these characters developed and the stories that they had with each other, the love triangles and
Mhm.
all that weird, awkward shit with teenagers that you know, normal high school shit that these kids went through. Not only that, competing, you know, in this karate tournaments, love, school, picking colleges, just
Yep.
that life that comes at you, you know? And some of these kids were actually doing all of this in real life as well.
Yeah.
They're in
Y-
high school, they're trying to go to college and trying to juggle acting on top of all that. So we really seen these kids doing what they were doing on the TV, but in real life as well, because some of them were doing that.
Yep.
And some of them ended up engaged by the end of it.
Oh, that's cool. I noticed in the little flashbacks as Miguel was training that like, oh, he was a young man when he started. You
Yeah.
can see the physical changes he's grown up on the
Yeah,
show.
dude,
Great call out. Yeah.
he really grew up.
Yeah.
And even, Anthony, Daniel's son, when you see him in the beginning of season 1, he's like a kid, and then by the end
Yeah.
of it, you're like, "Damn, this kid's a teenager now." A legit teenager. So and then you see Miguel. I know in between these seasons, he did, Blue Beetle as well, so he packed on, some serious muscle on his frame as well, and hit a
Mhm.
growth spurt somewhere between some of these seasons because he went from one season to the next, and it was like, "God damn, this kid looks like he grew a foot and put on, like, 30 pounds of muscle somewhere." You know?
I
Yeah.
love Blue Beetle. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, for sure. He looked like a champion by the end there.
Yeah. Yeah, he
He
was
he
ready.
he really did. He was ready.
No, I'm happy to hear that. I already shouted out the binary bros, or as I was calling them in my mind the whole time, Phineas and Ferb. That's who they were to
Yes,
me when
yes.
they hopped in the car to go off to
That's
college
definitely
there.
how it really felt with those guys kinda growing up, in front of us is, like, they really were like a Phineas and Ferb type of duo in the beginning of season 1, and then you see them as these 2. Both of them grew and became these great fighters at the
Yeah,
end from being like nobodies to being these really good competitive karate tournament guys, but still also not losing who they were along the way. They were still just
perfect.
2 nerdy fellas.
Now now, Jeff, I gave you a preview of my questions, but I'm actually going to abandon my next question to ask a more useful one. As I was watching these episodes, I paused a few times to like look some stuff up when I got confused. And when I realized that a guy named Quan was killed, I did my best to Google what happened, and it sounds really wild. So, can you tell me who the hell was Quan and what the
So
hell happened to this guy?
so for Quan, he was the hard-nosed captain that,
Yep,
um, John Kreese put in charge of the Cobra Kai team when Cobra Kai went to Korea.
yep,
Which is where Cobra Kai was originally born, was in Korea. And, they had a really good captain, but he was k the leader, John Kreese kinda felt he was soft.
yep.
But this kid, Quan, was kinda like the rule breaker, the bad boy, kinda like similar to what John Kreese was at that age. He was that
Hmm.
hard-nosed kid. He didn't take shit, he would just fight to fight.
Yeah.
And so that's how he ended up being like the captain of the Cobra Kai team when they came back from Korea into the tournament in the beginning. Um, During the tournament, there is a all hands brawl. Like shit hits the fan, just craziness, right? And the original sensei of Cobra Kai, Kim Dai Yoon's grandfather,
Hmm.
in order to bring Johnny or not John, but John Kreese into the Cobra Kai, he sent him on this, like, quest to get his family's dagger,
Okay.
and you see him kinda get this dagger, and it kinda goes with him, it's his thing, it's his, it's kinda like, "This says I'm the sensei of Cobra Kai," type of deal. So, at some point, him and Terry Silver had their falling out, and so John's plan was to pull his dagger and give old Terry Silvers the old shiv, but it got knocked out into the crowd during this giant brawl. And
Okay.
Axel was fighting with Quan, and
Okay.
Axel hits Quan. And, Axel is like this behemoth of a child
Sure.
or teenager, and he lands like it was a freak accident. The little blade rolled out into there. He landed
Mm,
on it, and
okay.
he died. Like, it was like, "Holy shit, that was the freakiest of accidents that could have possibly happened," and
Yep.
that it happened.
Okay.
So
That was really helpful because that was more or less what I gathered, but I was like, I'm gonna need an expert to break this down for
yeah.
me, and I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, there was a white cobra in there too, in the cave where the blade was.
Naturally.
Naturally.
Yeah, and I was just like Um, I lived in Korea 7 years, and
Oh, wow.
they don't have snakes. There's no native snakes in Korea.
Not just not white cobras, there are no snakes in
Yeah.
Korea.
It's none. Sea
Remind
snakes, yes, that live in the sea, but actual snakes? Absolutely not. Never
wow.
seen one.
That's what makes it so legendary, the white cobra, you know?
Hey, you never know when the white
Absolutely.
cobra is gonna appear. Oh,
Purple
that was the
cobras,
purple
baby.
cobras?
Yeah,
My
purple
bad.
cobras, you got me. That's exactly what I was doing.
I seen it in your eyes, man. That was another reference to another Ben Stiller movie, Little Blue Still.
That's what I was gonna say, is that we're talking Zoolander?
Yep.
Good man.
I'm always talking Zoolander. But yeah, speaking of the fact that there are no snakes in Korea, speaking of elephants in the room, Chris and I have a couple of elephant in the room questions that we want to get to. Chris, do you want to kick things off for us?
Yeah, okay, so we know that the creators of Cobra Kai got approval from Pat Morita's estate before fully digitally resurrecting him in this final season. Um, I didn't know this was a thing until I was watching it happen, and I had to go double check that it was in fact with the blessing of anybody who could give such a blessing. So, um, what's up with you, Jeff? How do you feel about the choice to do this and the execution of it?
So, if it had been done any other way or in any other concept than what they had done it in, I probably wouldn't have liked it. But in the way they did it, in the way they achieved it by advancing the story and in Daniel's story further in his growth as a person, I thought it was done wonderfully. And the fact that the Morita, estate said, if you're gonna gave them the blessing and they did not let us down and then they didn't do it dirty. I mean, you could tell it was a CGI or whatever, but it was done in a way that advanced Daniel's story to the next level that they needed to get him in, and it was done beautifully in my opinion, and I enjoyed it immensely
Hmm.
because it did give us the story. But if they would have just done it just to include it, then no, but it had to have a deeper meaning to the story, and it did. So,
All right, Randy, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah. In general, I'm not a huge fan of digitally resurrecting characters. I'll admit my initial response was a little bit cringy to it. I don't think it was necessary. That being said, um, I do appreciate that they were not like ridiculously gratuitous with it, right? Like we get this
Hmm.
moment
exactly.
um that they're not trying to build up an entire scene, and especially, in light of some of the stuff you've taught me tonight, Jeff, the fact that in the world of this show, Miyagi Do was created in response to Cobra Kai, like to try to prove something that maybe never needed to be proven in the first place. I may not know the show, but I know that, having a mentor is important, and it's complicated. And if someone questions your mentor and that voice that you trust, you want to defend them. So I loved that they made that a little bit gray and complicated for Daniel, and he had to find that balance. So
They did, they muddied the water a little bit of who
Mm,
he thought Miyagi
yeah,
was, and nobody has this perfect past,
yeah,
and the way they brought that to light, and they kind of fed the seeds in of it, from
yeah.
Johnny finding this little thing, and then this little thing, and then this whole other big story that came out of it, and then finally with us getting this really well done CGI of Mr. Miyagi to help Daniel grow and to kinda close out what he felt was a clouding of Mr. Miyagi's legacy,
mm.
Yeah.
which would have meant that he felt his legacy would have been muddy as well.
And that's what it really boils down to for me, the idea that this was necessary for the story. This wasn't just a nostalgia play. This wasn't just a chance to try and cash in on the legacy. of this character, of this actor, of this franchise. It was truly story driven, right? Daniel
Mhm.
needed this closure in order to move forward through this finale the way that he did. So while they might have been able to achieve it with um, like voiceovers, cutouts for flashbacks to voiceovers from the past properties, to your point, Jeff, it helps that this was relatively well executed. There's like a moment where his mouth is a little bit like, that looks
Yeah,
like an AI I made on my phone. But they were smart to use the lighting that they used, right, to allow that to look as effective
Yep.
as possible. Um, yeah, I think for me, it really all boils down to that blessing from the estate,
Yeah.
right? The dead cannot speak for themselves, and so we have to rely on the people who have been entrusted to carry forth their estate, however you might phrase that for the average person. Um, so yeah, Randy, I agree generally. I don't love this idea. I think there's other ways we can tell stories, but the technology does make this kind of very poignant moment quite possible. And as long as it's done in the light of day with the right blessings and not against anybody's dying wishes, um, I, I I'm interested in what
and
we
I
can
don't
do.
think the Moriata estate would have signed off on this if it wasn't going to be something that they knew Pat would have been proud to be a
Mm,
part of.
mm,
And he I know, and you see some interviews with, Mr. Morita here, and he loved being Mr. Miyagi. But he
Mhm.
also has some other really fun and good characters, you know?
Mhm.
The, I'm not gonna go into them, but there's some really good stuff that he did out there,
Yeah.
and, but so I think could it have been done differently without like, them CGI-ing? Probably, but I don't think it would have told the story the same way. It's just having him there for those few minutes to have Daniel's back one more time.
literally, when they were back to back and they were moving in concert with one another, that
That was
really sold me.
beautiful.
Mm,
Yeah, that was just
Yeah.
so well done, and was kinda like, "He's not here, but he still has your back, Daniel."
mhm,
You know,
Yeah.
that and
mhm.
it was like one of those, like,
Oh, cutting
"Who the
onions.
hell's cutting onions in here?" So,
You gotta love it. Now, our other elephant in the room, it's a little bit more playful. I already brought up the crane kick earlier. As I was doing my homework in addition to watching the episode and trying to wrap my mind around the conversation a bit, um, I must have seen like 12 different like BuzzFeed articles about like ranking all of the different crane kicks on Cobra Kai and the general sense that I picked up from the internet was like relief that we did not get like a Johnny crane kick in this final battle. Um they did set us up with a clip from that moment from the original film. So if that's something people were worried about, I imagine there were some people holding their breaths and saying, "Please don't do it. Please don't hit us with the crane kick." Ultimately, they resist that temptation, right? It's a flashback. Johnny learns a lesson. But Jeff, how do you think they handled that? Were you expecting a crane kick? Would it have ruined it for you if he had done it? Do you like
I
that they
think for
teased it?
the tease was just enough. That's all you really needed. Like, if you woulda actually executed a crane kick, I think I'd have been a little bit, disappointed in the writing at that point,
Hmm.
because the writing of this had been so damn good. Now, if he woulda executed a crane kick, I'd have probably just been like, "Alright, I'm done." And I probably woulda never finished it. I would've been like, "Okay," even though that was the final episode, I'd have just turned it off at that point and just been like, "I don't wanna know." Because the
Mhm,
tease was perfect, the setup was
mhm.
perfect, the flashback in Johnny's mind to the crane kick and the tease of it, that was that's all
Yeah,
you needed. That
just
was
enough.
the chef kiss on it, that was all you needed, and then you're kind of like, "Is he gonna do it?" And then when he doesn't do it, he was just very patient, and
Yes.
he executed what he needed to execute. Because I don't wanna give too much away, even though we're talking about it, I still want people to watch it, because
Okay.
this was really one of those you have to see with your own eyes,
Sure,
because
sure.
this from the start to the finish of this was really good, and the setup, I can't say
Mm,
enough good things about it. The way that it was done, and just in that moment, you see Johnny Lawrence become an adult, And
Yep.
keep in mind, he just had a baby too. It had
Yep.
just gotten married, you know, but that to me was kind of like his ultimate. He grew right there, you
Mm.
know. It's like the Grinch. His heart grew 10 times. Only this time, Johnny's patience grew 10 times larger.
Awesome. Chris, how did you feel as that crane kick seemed like it might be approaching?
Yeah, very similar to you, Jeff. I think you kind of circled around to my point there in the middle because they began to tease it. I felt like the setup was coming when they're in the Cobra Kai dojo and Daniel is acting as sensei and training Johnny for the fight, right? He talks about like, not just gonna be one flashy kick. He's like, well, you beat me with a flashy kick, which gives Daniel the chance to share the wisdom behind the flashy kick, right? It wasn't just a flashy kick. No, no, no. It only worked because I let you come to me and you ran right into it. And so I was beginning to feel trepidatious at that moment. I was really concerned that that was inevitably how the final fight would end. And they struck a beautiful balance. Again, to your point, Jeff, the writers in the show such a tremendous amount of intelligence in how they balance the nostalgia that they know is the bread and butter of this show with the authenticity to the characters that has allowed it to be successful. Because Johnny doesn't go full Daniel-san here. He doesn't go full Miyagi-Do. He does sit back. He does remain patient. He does let the opponent come to him like Daniel was talking about, but it's still a ferocious, no mercy strike that follows.
Yeah.
And that's that right balance.
It was the Johnny Lawrence growth and patience. It was the Johnny Lawrence version of the crane kick.
Yep.
Yes, yes, his version. Well said.
Yeah, I think you both broke it down perfectly. You made all the points I wanted to make. So all I will say is that's my favorite sort of like meta fan moment, acknowledging the conversation and the trepidation amongst the fans, giving them that little bit of a tease, but rewarding them with a great story beat. So well
Chef
done
kiss,
indeed.
chef
Mm.
kiss. Now, I gotta ask y'all this. What did y'all think of that 1980s training montage to Rocky leading up to all this?
Yeah, we're about to go there. I'm so glad you asked
Oh,
because this
that was the next thing?
yeah, yeah, I mean, that scene amongst other '80s references were just so fun, so, um, like, perfect. So, this film doesn't just or this series doesn't just lean on Karate Kid lore, right? And that fateful fight from the final
It leans
film.
on a lot of what makes Johnny Lawrence, and that's 1980s action
Yeah,
Yeah.
movies
there you
and
go.
old classic rock.
So we talked a little bit about this earlier when we were going through, some of the other beats, but tell me, Jeff, what were some of the other properties, the other media, '80s or otherwise, that was on your mind
It's
as you finished the show?
the Rocky homage during um, the training on the beach that they did in the one movie where they're on the
Rocky
old
3.
pier.
It's
Yeah,
Rocky 3, yeah.
excellent stuff there. You even like with what's his name? They weren't from Russia, but Iron
I
Dragons, they were from Germany, I think.
mhm.
So you
Oh,
kind of
I
had
don't know.
that they weren't Russian. I think it was Germany or maybe France or something like that. But you kind of had all those like, oh, it feels like that, where he's getting ready to if he dies,
Yeah.
with
Uh,
Dolph Lundgren in there, you know. So for me, it was like the music from the 80s that they had, the training homages just felt like very Rocky-esque. I know there's some other movies in there, some of the older kung fu movies, American Ninja or something like that, was another one that kinda had those vibes in certain parts, or Best of the Best, I think is
oh,
Best of the Best
yeah.
1.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It kinda that I'm thinking, like, those types of things, like, when
Yeah.
I'm watching this, I'm like, "Oh, it's like the best of the best," some Kumite action getting ready to go down. Are they gonna modify the mats and raise them up, you know?
Man, if the Sekai Takai mat had all of a sudden risen, I would've lost my mind.
Oh, I would too. I'd have been like a kid. You wouldn't have been
Yeah.
able to calm me down.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Randy, what about you, buddy? What was top of mind for you as you watched these 3 episodes?
Yeah, so I loved all those 80s stories beats, and we got some needle drops that fit that. But on the flip side, I really loved the Eminence front needle drop by The Who as they are driving the car down the street. Like it's such a perfect track, right? Um, like an Eminence front. It's basically like a false front, a facade. Like I'm gonna try to appear stronger, better than I am, and almost everyone on this series is putting up some kind of a front that needs to be broken down by the end. So I loved that. And then, of course, because I'm a high school English teacher, one of my biggest go tos in this section, Chris, is The Great Gatsby. I love dropping a Great Gatsby connection.
Always.
I've possibly even used this
Wouldn't be media
specific.
lit without you doing it, you
Yeah,
know?
That's right.
to be honest, I think I've used this exact quote before, but it was so relevant I had to risk using it again. And this is one of my favorite character descriptions ever in a book. It's when we meet the character of Tom Buchanan, who is an emotionally and physically abusive, selfish, you know, piece of garbage human being. And when we meet him, he's described as having two shining, arrogant eyes that had established dominance over his face and gave him the appearance of always leaning aggressively forward. You could see a great pack of muscle shifting when his shoulder moved under his thin coat. It was a body capable of enormous leverage, a cruel body. I love this description of Tom Buchanan. And listen, this performance by Louis Tan as Sensei Wolf is the most like on the nose villainy mustache twirling stuff. His body, I think, literally is tilted forward like this at every single moment to the point that when Johnny makes a reference to how tall his opponent is, I'm like, really? Because I hadn't noticed, because he's always leaning forward and leering, and the face is going, and every movement is aggressive, and like the way he's talking about how to apply pressure to certain points of a body to injure someone, to take them out of the fight, having like the exact opposite of honor. That perfectly selfish villain who, at the end of the day, is skilled, but he still needs to rely on trying to break other people, hurt other people, take them down a few notches, which he does so effectively to Johnny just before the fight.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I can't help but activate that Great Gatsby brain, so that was a big
Yeah.
one for me.
My
So now I
big
want you to think about every '80s villain there ever was,
yeah,
But
yeah.
and
by the way,
Louis Tan bodied that '80s villain.
I should say it was on the nose, but I found it really fun.
It was, because he over exaggerated it. Even his speech was over exaggerated when he was talking about.
Yeah.
I know you didn't see it because when they first got to Germany, or yeah, it was Germany, I think, for the tournament, and Johnny is getting, like, a muffin for breakfast and stuff like that, and he meets Lewis's character for the first time in Sensei Wolf, and he's kinda like, "The stuff you're putting into your body is not healthy," and everything he ever does is very over exaggerated like a villain should be,
Yep,
and
yep.
it was he overacted it to a point where it become the character. Everything was a overact,
Sure, sure.
Mm,
and that to me is like, it was done so well. And, oh, by the way, you can refer to him as Scorpion, okay?
yeah, right.
Or this grandson of Scorpion, or I guess it would be great grandson or something?
You've lost me now.
Mortal
Uh,
Kombat.
yeah, yeah, no, of course. The just the generations, like, I lose
Oh,
count.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know
Beautiful,
he's yeah.
beautiful.
I'm kinda, like, not nearly as highbrow as you, Randy, so I'm not gonna start quoting The Great Gatsby as we keep talking about Cobra Kai here. I'm more aligned in terms of my experience, with you here, Jeff, because
Yeah.
as I was watching this, even before we got the full-on Rocky 3, like, that's what we're doing. We're gonna
Mhm.
recreate them falling in the water, the kids running by all of it, beat for beat is the Rocky 3
Yeah,
training
it was great.
montage. But before that, to your point, you talked about Axel very briefly. We got a training montage with Miguel and
Yeah.
Axel, and that one was giving Rocky 4. I had it in my notes long before I
Mhm.
ever saw the Rocky 3 bit. I'm like, "Oh, slow training montage." The timing was a little weird. I got confused with what was happening timeline-wise, but they're showing Miguel giving it his all. He's got his friends around him. You can tell it's a more wholesome vibe, and then you cut to
Yeah.
the mean and the gritty and the dangerous and how much more ferocious and unforgiving that training is. It was pure Rocky and Drago in Rocky 4,
Mhm.
Yeah.
where they really intentionally contrast the both.
If you'd like a lower brow reference, I was thinking about how much The Karate Kid really influenced all the kid sports movies I grew up with, like The Mighty Ducks is probably the place where I
Yeah.
spent the most time with that vibe between the
Well,
2 teams, but, like, you can
that's where
see
I'm
those
going
roots.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
that
Ducks and the Sharks.
not just because of the Jets and Sharks, not just because of the Ducks and the Hawks, right, to your point,
Yeah.
it's very much playing on that, but there's a much more deliberate, I think, reference here. There's an actor in Cobra Kai, I don't know how much he was in Cobra Kai, but, the announcer from the
Yeah,
Sekai
he's the
Taikai,
coach of the Russian team.
but his name is also Wolf. He's
Oh.
Yes.
Wolf the Dentist Stanson.
Yeah.
And you've got
Oh,
Sensei
wow.
Wolf on the other side of the arena here, and you get the perfect, Gunnar Stahl moment. If you guys recall at the end of
Yeah.
D2,
No, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Says, "You lost it for me." He says, "You lost it for yourself." And he
Yep.
walks away from the coach. He kind of abandons the whole identity of the Iceland team. Um, and so, yeah, absolutely perfect here with Axel
Yeah,
and
it was
Wolf.
Iceland, my bad, it wasn't the Russian team.
Yeah, Iceland, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah,
Greenland is
Mighty
full of ice.
and Iceland is very nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mighty Ducks was very much top of mind here, D2 specifically.
Yeah.
When I heard the name Wolf, I'm like, "Oh, every bad coach is named Wolf." And then I
Yeah.
actually recognized Wolf the dentist doing his announcing bit. I was like,
Mhm.
"Whoa." My
So
mind
what y'all
was
think about him? He takes that one punch and gets KO'd, but then he's like, "Alright, is this the game we're gonna play?" Well, y'all didn't see that. So
no,
y'all
I was
didn't
like,
get to see that. You just watched the final 3 episodes. All the more reason to go back and
okay,
watch the brawl for it all that led up to these
yeah,
final
all
3
right.
Chris,
episodes.
thank you so much because I failed to make that connection. You just blew
I
my
didn't
mind,
either, like, and
and, I love it.
that's awesome, yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
And then, yeah, to your point, Jeff, everything else was just like it was giving me like every uh, Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Seagal
Yep.
movie,
Yep,
any
yep.
action of the 80s and early to mid 90s. When that yacht blew up, I was like, of course we're blowing up a yacht. You can't have a
So,
property like
and
this
the
and
way
not
they
blow up a
did it, it
yacht.
looked very 80s-ish too.
Very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I've
And I was
I've
like,
seen
with
that
all
shot.
this new technology we have and the CGI we have, they kept it 80s action, and that to me was like, "Really?" That's what I'm like, I love it.
Yeah,
I'm
that
Yeah.
like,
frame of like the pan out of the ship blowing up, that might as well have been cut out of an existing film and just pasted in here. It looked so much
Yep.
like something I saw on USA on a Sunday as a kid.
USA,
Le
up
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
night.
Yeah, that's right. Last reference, and then we
Characters
can move
welcome.
on. All characters welcome. Terry Silver, I guess I'm realizing retroactively because 'cause I'm watching Terry Silver in this, I'm like, "Look at that. You gotta have the sleek, long-haired bad guy in a karate
Yep.
movie,
In a
just
hot
like
tub.
just like Snyder in The Three Ninjas." But I realized that Snyder himself was most certainly a knockoff of Terry Silver.
I was gonna say, as much as I loved the explosion of the yacht, like, the most, like, 80s, 90s action for me was just, like, when the goon goes up the stairs and immediately, like, falls back down
Yes.
bloodied for just, like, the showdown. Beautiful stuff. But listen, this is Media Lit. We love emotions. We love characters on arcs. We've already shed some tears tonight. We've been talking about, Johnny's growth in particular, but of course also Daniel's growth, the growth of all of these sub characters. And it seems to me the mission of this series, not just the final 3 episodes, was to redeem Johnny Lawrence, right? They bring us back to that degenerate version in a desperate place, visiting his mother's grave, and we get to see him finally come full circle and accomplish his mission. Um, the finale, time and time again, is driving this lesson home. So I simply want to follow up on what we've been saying so far and ask everyone to share one of their favorite moments that really sold the solidification of that journey. And Chris, I'm going to go to you first on this one. What was your moment that really showed you that Johnny Lawrence was a new man?
Yeah, so there's a moment in the second episode of this three-part finale, right? So the second to last episode, where Johnny has this little talk outside with Miguel.
Mhm.
He offers him some pizza. I think he tells him it's protein. Miguel laughs that this isn't exactly the healthy meal you're advertising, but I get what we're doing here. That speech, what I wrote down in my notes was just like it was this beautiful blend of divine masculine and divine feminine energies
Mm.
from Johnny. And I think that Johnny Lawrence is a character who you would traditionally identify like solely with the masculine energy, the divine masculine, like and almost toxically so. But not that these things are tied to gender, but like divine masculine energy is associated with action and logic and strength. Um, Whereas the divine feminine is linked to like intuition and nurturing and creativity, emotional intelligence. And Johnny has all of those things on display
Mhm.
in this conversation. He's still there to motivate this kid to be his best, to be goal oriented, to stay focused, to be
Mhm.
strong. And he does it in the most nurturing way. He brings him a meal. He sits down next to him. He speaks into his life, speaks into his insecurities. He leaves him reassured, not insecure and vulnerable, which is the kind of coaching that Johnny received. Right? He was built up and told, you're either this strong or you might as well be, you're nothing, right? Anything less than this level of
Yeah.
total and absolute domination is a complete failure. That's not what he's giving to Miguel here. So it was that speech in the second episode that really showed me. I was like, oh, that's what the show's been doing for Johnny Lawrence. This wasn't just a chance for like him to seem cooler than he was in the original movies. This was actually a real character arc, and then that proved out as that episode finished, and the third episode really took it all home.
Yeah. It's a perfect answer. Jeff, how about for you? What was your top moment to show us Johnny's growth?
Watching him cry while hugging
Yeah.
John
Mm,
Kreese, and just that, and that's really Kreese's moment as well. It's more Kreese's moment than Johnny's, but I think Johnny kind of crying there and hugging him overshadowed that moment for John a little bit. But it was that moment for me that was like, "Oh, damn." He forgave him in that moment, and I think John kind of, forgave himself for the
mm,
bullshit,
Mhm.
from that apology and the mistreatment of Johnny throughout his life, basically, even into his adulthood when the show restarted and Kreese came back into his life at that point. But that to me was kinda like that. It was a moment for both of them. I think it was more meant to be John's moment, but I think Johnny in that moment, when he pulled him in for the hug and
mm,
he started crying, kinda overshadowed Kreese's moment in that. But that moment to me is just him letting go of everything that allowed us to get to that moment with Miguel.
mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Forgiveness is certainly growth. I think that giving forgiveness is more difficult than asking for forgiveness.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Neither is easy, but giving is certainly growth.
Yeah. I love both of your answers. I mainly want to yes and Jeff. Uh, not only do we get the hug, which is not a staple of those 80s, 90s action movies, but just like this emotional honesty and vulnerability to go with it. To say like you threw me away like trash just when I needed you most. I trusted no one, least of all myself. To be in a place where he can admit that about himself, those things that a former version of himself might read as weakness, was really powerful. So that's mainly a yes and to Jeff, and just the fact that acknowledges that he needs Daniel so much, asking him to be his sensei. Like the moment. There's the moment during the fight, where Daniel gives him back his Hachima key from Cobra Kai, just to really make sure he is being himself, and embracing his identity. Beautiful stuff all around.
Mhm, mhm,
And it's also that moment because Johnny's life was a complete shit show
Hmm.
because of what John did to him, and for him to forgive him in that scene was huge for Johnny, because that literally is what sent Johnny spiraling. That and the death of his mother
mhm,
is
Yeah.
what really sent him spiraling down that shithole all at the same time. Because he lost the tournament, Kris threw him away, and then shortly after that, his mom remarried, and then she passed. And then his stepdad just kinda tossed him to the side as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, it really was that moment when those 2 came together, had that emotional moment, you know, is
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, he was certainly tremendous during this, right? He acted the shit out of some of these moments, and Daniel was also great, but, I wanna talk about some of the other performers here and give each of the panelists a chance to shout out one other performance that we felt was maybe the best after Johnny, uh, and Daniel's son. So, Randy, we'll go back to you first this time around. What was the performer who was the performer that stood out for you?
Yeah, I've got a number of people listed here, and I was having a hard time choosing. I think I've preemptively smuggled in talking about some of the performances I appreciated that I thought about referencing here. And I'm torn between a lot of the different actors, but someone we haven't talked about yet, who also happens to share a surname with a character I talked about earlier, is Tanner Buchanan as Robbie Keene. He's not at the core of these episodes, right? Like his fight comes early in that first
mhm,
episode. He gets taken out. He has some big key moments with his dad. And he's largely on the sidelines from there. He gets his sponsorship deal at the end. But I thought of some of those like pep talks from the kids. I really believed him uh in his pep talk to Tori when they were really up against it. And I could really sense the growth from this kid. He like was really giving me some like Benny the Jet Rodriguez energy from the Sandlot, which is, the highest compliment I could give someone.
absolutely,
I sensed a lot of
absolutely.
growth from a kid, and I really dug that performance.
Beautiful. Great pick. Love that. Jeff, what about you?
So I thought Randy was gonna go there, but he held off on it. But I'm going Tori.
Okay, yeah.
Tori's growth to me throughout this show, and she was one of those, like, she wasn't a main character, but I felt her character outside of Johnny's had the most development and growth throughout it. And to me, watching Tori and Robbie, grow together and just where they started and where they finished in life to me was just amazing, especially after all the shit that Tori went through. And that poor girl in this show got one thing right after the other. Just, if it could happen to, a kid, it happened to her.
Yeah.
Mm.
So for me, I would definitely, Tori Peyton List, shout out to her because I don't think I've seen her in anything bad.
It's the Tooth Fairy.
She's really one of those, and I hope she keeps going on this forward trajectory that she's
Yeah.
kinda been on. She's on that other Netflix show where they're a ghost in high school or whatever, that's really good. Um,
Man, she's got a deep IMDb even before Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
exactly,
Mm.
from I think what was the show, Jessie or whatever
Yep.
on Disney, and then, she did that movie with Adam Sandler.
The, Hoobie Halloween.
That dude, don't
That was
sleep on that
great.
movie, it is
No, I've seen it,
so
bro. It's
good.
good. It's a lot of
It is
fun.
so good.
It's a lot of fun.
I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's just throwing shit out there now because he's got
Wow.
this 5 movie deal with Netflix." I'm like, "Yeah, but Hubie Halloween was freaking
Um,
good."
Wicked fun.
I'm having an epiphany here right now. Jeff, Chris, is it true that you're both girl dads?
Yeah, you're a
Yep.
girl dad? My man, I knew I liked you.
I was hearing some girl dad energy in some of those shout outs that made me really happy to
Good
hear.
stuff. Good
And I
stuff.
think a lot of like, that's why I was so, like, even with, Daniel's daughter,
Sam.
Samantha,
No.
it was like, I could see my own kid, dealing with the high
Mhm.
school dramas and, getting ready to go off to college. I'm like, I just lived this.
Mhm.
I was basically at the same time I'm watching season 5 of this show, my daughter is literally going through these same struggles as these kids on this show. minus the karate. So I was just like, "Ah, dude,
Mm.
this is hitting it for me." It
That's what
like
that's why we need
and
stories.
like I said, kudos to the fucking writers, man. Pardon my French on that, but they phenomenal dudes, man.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
the essence of what it is to be the Karate Kid, to be Cobra Kai, to be Miyagi, though, they captured it so brilliantly.
Mhm.
Even bringing in Elizabeth Berkley as a guest star to be a blind date for Chosen, who also, by the way, had a great character, rebuilding in this series as well. So kudos to those guys.
Very cool.
Nice.
I'm gonna keep it with the young performers here. I guess outside of Johnny Daniel, a lot of them are young. But, I'm gonna go back to Miguel,
Yeah.
Zolo Maridueña. Um,
I can never pronounce his name. I know his first name is Zolo, and that's what he'll forever be.
yeah, perfect, yeah. Um, there was a specific moment for me that really sold me on his performance here,
Mm.
because I was watching his final fight, the championship fight against Axel. And, shout out to Axel too, I'll come back to him, but let's stay with Miguel. I'm writing down as I'm watching the fight, I wish he looked a little less surprised during this first round.
Mm.
He wins that first round. He lands those first 5 points or whatever it is, and he's wide-eyed the whole time. He's like he's blocking strikes, and he's striking himself, and he's winning the fight,
Mm.
but he doesn't look like he's in control of it, and I took that as a flaw at first until then we get to the 3rd round,
Mm.
and it's a totally different look in the eyes now
Yep.
Yeah.
as he's much more locked in that 3rd round, and then he wins the fight, and you realize, like, "Oh, that was all choice. That was this performer
Mhm.
being totally in this character in this moment," and understanding that even though he was winning the fight at first, he was out of his depth, and he felt out of his depth,
Yep.
right? And it was gonna take a while before he was actually ready to win that fight. You still had to go through a
Beautiful.
few things. So yeah, that those wide eyes that I at first was critical of revealed themselves to be just a brilliant acting choice, and fortunately, it all happens in real time, so I don't have too much time to dwell on what I thought
Yeah,
was
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
But that was
Eh
what was great about his performance is that from the growth from the beginnings, from season 1 all the way up to this point of him becoming he was already an All Valley champion at
Yep.
that point, and then winning the Sekai Takai or Sekitaki. Now I can't even say it. It was brilliant watching him in that championship match against
mm,
Axel, and Axel is just this powerhouse of a human, and you can tell that his whole life has been nothing but this.
Yep.
and that's where
And
shout out
even
to
watch
that
at
performer.
his growth, what was his name? Patrick Lewis.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
then,
he
Zara too. She got her comeuppance from Tori in that fight as well, and so
yeah, I thought that Axel performed the conflicted
Mm.
nuance of his character pretty well. That actor, he
nailed it.
he he was never
Yeah.
somebody you totally hated despite him being such a figure
You
of,
didn't want to hate
antagonism.
him
No.
because you could
Yeah.
see it in his face that he was just the weapon that was put there by Sensei Wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, I had a little note here just to do a little smuggle shout out to the performer Reina Vallandigham who played Zara, uh, because I really, hated her in the sense that it was a great performance, and I was supposed
Mhm.
to hate her. But
It
yeah,
was beautiful, though,
it turns out she is a real life martial arts
like a
expert. She's
thirteen-time
Very
taekwondo
legit.
champion,
yeah,
Yeah.
and
like
she is as legit as they come.
so that was fun to learn for a fact that that was her doing all that stuff, stepping up to the
Oh, yeah,
plate, and
everything that she did in that show was all her. She had no,
yeah.
stunt
Stunt double.
double.
Mm.
That was all
Yeah.
her.
Well, like, even before I knew that going in, it was just, like, clear, like, okay, there's some talent on display here, like, there's something special happening here with this
I
person.
don't think I think she's done stunt work before, but I don't
Sure.
think she's ever been, like, the actress in front of the camera the way
Yeah,
she
yeah,
was for
yeah.
this. I don't think she has
That's
a very big IMDb library,
that's what I was
No.
gonna
but
say, yeah, her
she was
IMDb is fairly
brilliant,
short.
and I really would like to see her in more stuff in the
Mm.
future
Yeah,
because
she
she is a
nailed it.
very talented young lady who deserves that, and that
Beautiful.
performance as Zara proved it.
Beautiful stuff. Alright, we're winding up, we're getting close to our extra credit section. But we had 3 whole episodes. There's so much that we'd love to talk about. We'd stay here all night if we could. But one way that we like to sometimes break things down on Media Lit is to look at our favorite moments of humor and our favorite moments of heart. Because Cobra Kai is an emotionally rich show, but it's also not afraid to be funny and land a joke. And I love that balance. So I would like to know what everyone's favorite moment of humor was from the finale. Jeff, I'm going to turn to you first.
Oh, man. Put me on the spot on that one. It's hard to say because those 3 episodes actually, you know what? I got the perfect one, and it sums up Johnny as Johnny. At the very end,
Mhm. Mhm.
after all everything's went down, and they're in the sushi restaurant, and the fly is flying around,
Yep.
and you see Daniel break open the chopsticks, and he's about to pull the fly like he did with Mr. Miyagi. And, Johnny being Johnny, he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go hang one." And I think that was an exact quote, by the way. "I'm gonna go hang a piss or something."
I'm going to drain the
Drain the
main
main
vein.
vein.
Vein, yeah, there we go. And, so he's sitting there, he's concentrating, and all of a sudden, out of the freaking blue, whap! He kills the fly with his hands. I was like, "That is the most Johnny Lawrence thing
Yep.
you can ever have." Like, that was Johnny's character in a nutshell,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it
Yeah.
it was beautifully done, and also to note, in that scene where you see the 2 guys at the bar having a conversation, that's the writers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
You know,
Love that.
on their cell phones, and
Yeah.
they're
Rebooting
Yeah.
Back to the Future.
exactly, exactly. Because everybody thought, "Oh, is that their next project?" And it has been hinted at by them in the past that they would love to reboot Back to the Future.
A perfect film that perhaps
Yeah.
we shouldn't touch, but hey.
Hey, I'm in that
No,
boat where that's perfection right there, you don't mess with that.
no,
Yeah.
Jeff, I loved your answer. That was on my list as well. And in fact, I was telling Chris before we started, that whole restaurant scene was my favorite part of all 3 episodes. Um, it was just perfect, like from
It
start to
was like this
finish.
good like, you got who Daniel was being very
Yeah.
studious and very concentrating on this fly, and there comes Johnny like, "Oh, a fucking fly. Smash."
All
Like,
right.
dude, that's these 2 guys right there, and it's like it was oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, how do you put that into words? Because that's who they are, that's their characters right there.
Mhm.
Perfectly embodied.
Got him.
Exactly.
I
Got him.
got him. Whew. Chris, what was your favorite moment of humor?
Yeah, well, Jeff set me up beautifully because I was gonna mention that, but I'm happy to roll right back to something else that absolutely tickled me. Um, Johnny smashes that fly, he says, "Got him," then he says, "No mercy."
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
intend to mock this property at all, I enjoyed this
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much, but
yeah.
during, the John Kreese, Terry Silver fight, when the cigar goes flying and Terry Silver says, "No," and Kreese is just ready to finish his sentence,
Yep.
"Mercy," and everything blew up. I laughed. It was perfectly cheesy, perfectly 80s action, every a chef's kiss all day long. So I know it wasn't intended to be like a humorous moment, but it hit my funny bone in a really pleasant way, not in a mocking way, in a way that was like with reverence. I really
Yes.
enjoyed that moment.
Absolutely.
I couldn't
Absolutely.
believe they had them share No Mercy
Yeah,
right
it
there.
was it
Yep.
was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
quit
goes back to the writing. Those
The
guys were brilliant.
and there's a look in John Kreese's eyes in that moment when he says mercy that yeah, psycho stuff.
Oh, yeah.
As psycho as a man who would throw his cigar and intentionally blow himself up, so it was perfect.
It
Well, he knew what he knew he was going to.
Mhm.
That was the whole point of going to Johnny and having that moment with Johnny, because he
Sure,
knew that
sure.
would be the last time he saw him.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah. So, I've got a few things here. Just a quick shout out to the bad pun of you octopi my thoughts. I already put that in the synopsis, but
Dude, that's still funny. I don't
I
care.
love that. I love Johnny's, "I got myself into a jam over at the Applebee's." The phrasing of that, tragic moment in his life, but great delivery. But no, my actual choice is going to be, the MC before they announce, that Cobra Kai has a new leader and a new champion. He does this, like, really indulgent fake out where he's like, "Without a replacement, Cobra Kai forfeits the match," and he, like, waits for the Iron Dragons to, like, celebrate. It's like, "But they do have a replacement." Like, he's very clearly fucking with these guys on purpose because 'cause they're so obviously cheating at every turn, and, I loved how much fun he was having with it and just how elaborate it was. I was cracking up. I was literally laughing out loud. I say
And
LOL, but
the walkout music when they walked out,
yeah.
oh, this whole thing was a chef kiss for me. It was done amazingly.
Yeah, every bit of the, Sekai Taikai tournament was electric, right? When
Yeah.
that was on, it might as well have been a real sporting event. I was, like, locked in, edge of my
Yep.
seats, and the announcers were a huge part of that, so great call out. Alright, so that's the humor, but here in Media Lit, we love to do the heart too, so, let's talk about our favorite moment of just pure emotion. Maybe we've already talked about a few, and feel free to revisit if that was your big one. Jeff, we'll go to you first.
So I gave you my big one, but I wanna focus on a different one for this, and it was when, Samantha and Miguel, Miguel's he's waiting for the UCLA call through, and Sam has made the decision to go to Japan to study for her first year abroad, and Miguel shows up at the airport, and he's like, "They made me wait. I'm gonna make them wait, and I'm gonna go help you get settled." For that, what to me was kinda that's what's up, man.
Mhm.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That
I love
young
that.
teenage love.
Mhm. And even with the emotional intelligence rendered to your point in the synopsis, they kind of intelligently, maturely understand their lives are moving in separate directions, but they don't have to right away, and they're gonna
Yeah.
indulge in this last adventure together at the very least. Great
It was
call
great.
out. I love that, yeah. Randy, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay on brand as a teacher, and it's Daniel talking about teachers. Teachers may seem all-knowing, but they're human beings like the rest of us. That you've got to learn and grow and take the strengths along with the faults of your teachers, your mentors, your senseis, etc. Not everyone has the answers. If you can't understand that in life, you're gonna end up feeling resentful. You're gonna end up feeling uh, mistreated or abandoned. But to be able to take the good along with the bad, to sort that out, is such a valuable lesson and one that Daniel's in a much better place than Johnny throughout the series, but it's a lesson he had to learn as well. It also makes me think of my guy Yoda when he pops up again in The Last Jedi. The greatest teacher failure is
Mhm.
had those vibes. So that got the goosebumps going for me. I love that moment.
The teacher is
Good
in.
moment.
Yeah, great pick, buddy. Great pick. Um, yeah, for me, I will say I felt similarly about Johnny's speech to the Cobra Kai dojo at the very
Mhm.
end when he's talking about how you can't just have the one discipline.
Yeah.
You have to have balance, right? Um, if you live only by these 3 tenets, you'll grow up to be an asshole.
Yeah.
I thought that speech was wonderful and truly moving. But the moment of heart that I wanted to highlight, and go back to Robbie Keane and to Tori.
Mhm.
We already talked about this moment. We celebrated Robbie's performance, but just from a writing standpoint, without having
Yeah.
seen any of what Tori has gone through this past year, with just the mentions of it, you
Mhm.
could see in her performance and in the way they had written the episodes how broken she was in a really certain way. So that when Robbie looks at her and just simply tells her he loves her,
Yeah.
you can see what an effect that has on her. Um, that's so important for all of us to think that anybody out there loves us, cares for us, accepts us wholly and completely as we are, not for our accomplishments, not for our best days or for our worst days, but for the totality of our person. They love us. That is an incredibly important thing for a
Yeah.
person to continue to thrive in this world,
Mhm.
to even want to live in this world. You have to have some sense that there's somebody out there like that for you. And that's not just to speak to romantic love by any means, just a sense of
Yeah.
whole being known wholly
Yep.
and
Yep.
cared for. And I thought that they delivered that both performers, the writing. You had Zara sort of set us up for that when she tried to tear down Tori's confidence and get in her head, and really made it about how even here in your hometown, they're cheering for me. Nobody cares about you, right? She needed so
Yep.
desperately to hear from Robbie in that moment that he loves her, and that's it. That's all I wanted to tell you. And then
There was a
with that,
similar moment between Tori and Sam. I don't
Mhm.
remember if it was in the finale, the final 3
it's
episodes.
in the dojo while Tori's
Yeah.
training. Yes.
Yep. And that was another one. It was just Sam being there and being a friend that she needed when she didn't think she was good enough to have any.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was another one of those moments,
She even asked her,
similar.
"Despite all I've done," even though, you can see how much that means to her, and Zara really undermines that before the match, and so, yeah,
Yep.
Robbie comes in, and he's able to solidify everything that she's
I think it
begun
was
to hope
that
for.
moment there that kind of solidified what Sam had already told
Exactly,
her.
yeah.
So, yes,
Mhm.
I
Good
just put that
stuff.
2 and 2 together. I got 5 out of that time. So, good
Nice.
call, Chris. Good call. I like it.
Alright, well, we've just about done it, man. I've really enjoyed this conversation, almost as much as I enjoyed these 3 episodes. Maybe if there was more kicking and punching in the conversation, they'd be on level playing field. But we're not done yet. It's time to get into the extra credit section. We've done our homework, and now it's time to lay ourselves before the teacher for some extra credit. This week, we've got 2 fun ones, and I'll kick us off. We're gonna do the Lost Bardo Buddy Award. This goes to the character each panelist would be most likely to show up in our afterlife Bardo space. Randy, I'm gonna go to you first here, buddy. Who is your Bardo buddy?
All right. I've got some deeply heartfelt answers here. I've got some slightly sillier answers here. But since you're going to me first, I'm just going to not be cute. I'm just going to go with the most honest answer. It's Daniel for me, right? If I'm in a Bardo space, I'm trying to learn something about myself. There's something about Ralph Macchio as a performer that I can't quite put my finger on. Like as I watch him act, I don't at any point feel like he's the most polished actor of all time. He's not necessarily communicating like the heaviest gravitas of any person I've ever met, but there's this honesty to him,
Mm,
there's this gentleness to him, and the fact that I could watch that original Karate Kid movie when I was a kid and kind of feel like I was him, that I connected with him in a way that I've never really forgotten. Like that little flashback to the fly scene from the original movie, which is probably my favorite part of that movie. It really like woke up some nostalgia. I felt a little emotional watching it, like seeing him in that childish state. And I don't think it's just me either. I was recently at a family party, and my in-laws, when the whole family's over, they have like a TV in the basement, and that's kind of like the kid area where like the younger family members usually end up. And I went down there to check on my guys, and they were like playing with some Legos or whatever. But my niece, who is a tween, soon to be teenager, was watching The Karate Kid
whoa.
on the TV, which I was kind of surprised about. And I asked her about it. I was like, "Oh, this is a great movie." Um, and basically she said she really likes Ralph Macchio because she watched The Outsiders
Yeah,
in
great flick.
school. And I
Hey,
just
golden pony boy.
Yeah.
yeah, and I thought that was cool. And I thought that like there was, I don't know, hey, maybe she thought he was cute or whatever, but I think it's more than that. I think it is um that honesty there. So watching these episodes and seeing this guy, a little bit older than myself, being in this place, still having that boyish charm, still learning stuff, still growing. I found myself just really emotional watching this guy, and I think he's someone I'd love to communicate with and connect with as I'm trying to find myself. in a Bardo space. So thanks for going to me first. I know that was a lengthy answer, but I had a hard time not picking Daniel.
It's a beautiful answer. Time well spent. Thank you for sharing. Jeff, what about you? Who's gonna meet you along your road and help you with some wisdom?
So I just want to point out behind Ralph, behind William Zabka, Daniel and Johnny,
Mhm.
they don't get the character growth they get without the women that love them. And I
Mm.
just want to point out that Amanda LaRusso and Carmen Diaz, their characters in these shows, help push them along into what
Mm.
they became in that final season. So for me, I would go with either one of them
Mhm.
because they were really the guiding light for those guys. You see it, but you don't really notice it in the way they wrote it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like they say the right things at the right time that both Daniel and Johnny needed to hear to kind of push them along in their growth
Yep.
into the mature, more wiser versions of themselves. And I think that's true in life. We
Mhm.
we need that female presence in our life that is kind of like our cheerleader in the background as a I don't really like using that reference cause but that's
I get what you mean.
that one person that cheers
Rooting
for
for you.
you and they're rooting for you.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would want is that type of person there waiting for
Mm.
me. That help
Beautiful.
get me to where I need to be.
And so well said. These men are not on an island, and none of us grow alone. Really well called out. I love that, man.
And Jeff, I know, this award speaks to Chris and I being big Lost fans. I know that you are not a Lost fan,
I am not. We
but
discussed in the beginning.
those emotional connections, those unspoken romantic connections are one of the biggest ways that people are woken up. A simple touch, hands touching. So like awakening that, I think you answered the question even more perfectly than you realize. So
Yeah,
thank
man.
you for
Very well
that.
done. A podling at heart, he is. For me, the Bardo buddy, I'm gonna go to the other side of the coin, and I'm gonna go with Johnny Lawrence. And
Yep.
it's not because I feel a special kinship to the character necessarily, but I do recognize some patterns of thinking. I do recognize some tendencies towards um, self-destructive behaviors when you're at a low point, right? That wrestling with self-doubt that Johnny had to grow through. There in the end, Wolf was able to get in his head because in the locker room, because he really plays on those insecurities of what it means to be called a loser. As simple and like superficial as that might seem in an 80s bullying kind of way, Johnny has a really difficult relationship with that concept, right? Um, and it's not that concept specifically, but concepts or feelings of unworthiness, imposter syndrome. These are all very familiar. And I think if I'm in a Bardo space, right, and I'm a kind of in between, and I'm still working through some of my journey, I think I need somebody to come along who's been through some of that
Yeah.
stuff, who can share their wisdom and their lessons with me. So it's Johnny Lawrence.
Chris, beautiful answer. And
Love it.
you also made me realize that I should have shouted out Back to the Future earlier with those other references. What are you, McFly? Chicken?
Chicken.
You've really got that vibe going for Johnny when he's in his weakest place as
Ab-
well.
absolutely.
That's a good answer. I like it. No, yeah.
All right. We are coming down to what's become maybe the question I look forward to the most on an episode of Media Lit. And this is the question about which prop you would love to own from the film and why. Now, when we ask this question, we always give our guests first shot at this property that they love. Jeff, if you could take home one thing from this set, one prop, what would it be and why?
Mr. Miyagi's car, hands down. I'm
Yes.
a car guy,
Nice.
and I
Yeah.
love those old cars like that. And that car, to this series has such a significant importance of wax on, wax off. It's what we grew up with.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's what, taught, Daniel defense. And it's what got Mr. Miyagi's car washed and waxed for free.
That's right. He
But
knew what he
that
was
car
doing.
to me is just this absolutely beautiful piece of machinery, and to see it still working and still operating, and to see Daniel riding in that car with Johnny by his side,
Yeah.
and quite a few scenes throughout the series, it's really one of those things where you see the car and the connection with Mr. Miyagi, and watching Johnny and Daniel kind of grow this friendship that you never thought you would really see between them. To me, that car is like the summation of that.
Yeah.
So that car, hands down.
Yeah. It's a perfect choice.
Yeah. Perfect. It's like you've
Uh,
done this before.
I
Chris.
may have read and had a little knowledge beforehand, but
Nice.
off the top of my head, that car would be it every single time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think I already took my car for the season this year.
I think technically you can do 2 cars. I think we only put a limit on whole rooms was the only rule we gave ourselves this year.
Which car did you
Nice.
take, Randy?
Well, unfortunately, it's another Lost reference.
Ah, okay.
I took Hurley's Camaro from Lost.
I didn't
Trust
know
that
if
it's
you
a good
took
You'd
one.
love
if
it.
you had taken the Impala from Supernatural or not.
Whoa, Jeff. Supernatural means so much to my family. Let's table that. We gotta talk.
Yes.
Great show.
Uh,
Anytime, bro.
that being said, Chris, and from this property, what prop is going into your prop cave, man? We've got our whole prop caves going.
Yep, 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 and it's time for me to add well, hold on. Small smuggle because there's a prop that gets wielded in this last episode with
Mm,
such vigor, with such joy and power that it almost swayed my pick. I don't
hmm,
know what the dynamic was between these 2 announcers, but when Wolf the dentist stands and passes the microphone off to the other guy and gives him his chance to he holds that microphone like it's the
yeah.
holy grail. And I it really almost
I
swayed me.
love that because you have to go back, I think maybe 2 or 3 more episodes to, like,
Jeez
the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
part
Louise.
of season 5 to get that reference of him handing that microphone off. It's beautiful because I know what, like, just the way he does it and hands it to him, it is just this beautiful moment between those 2 that unless
Okay.
you watch the entire thing, you don't get it. But just the significance of that moment was, yeah, dude, good
Well,
choice.
maybe someday if Randy and I revisit the series, we go back, and I've appreciated that the fullness of that moment, then I'll actually pick the microphone. But for tonight, I'm gonna leave it on the board because I need to add a new piece of clothing to my prop wardrobe. I've already got some cool things in here. I've got the whole, Tetragrammaton outfit from Equilibrium. I've Daniel LaRusso's wife sees him enter the Sekai Takai at the end there. She goes, "Oh, I think I kinda like him in the black gi." I need the all black Cobra Kai gi with the black headband. It's so cool looking, right? That was the problem with villains when you were a kid. They were so much cooler than the good guys in a lot of respects, right? Such a cooler look, an edgier vibe. And eat with the yellow trim. I want the logo on the back. I need a full-on Cobra Kai
Amazon,
setup.
bro. You can get it off Amazon. I can see it framed right behind you.
Yeah. Right, maybe even on
Mhm.
like a you ever seen Saving Silverman? Remember the
Yes,
way, they had Neil Diamond's shirt in, like, a lit case with music
exactly.
back that's what I need. Maybe
Mhm.
it rotates. That's what I need.
With some 80s rock playing every time
Yes.
you push the button to turn on the light, it would play 80s
S
rock for you.
synth guitar just wailing.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Chris, phenomenal choice. As always, you've got so many cool outfits going in your prop closet these days. I'm really impressed. But no, I am going to turn to I suppose my this is going to be displayed in my art gallery. And what I would like very specifically is not just any Cobra Kai banner, but I would like the banner that is sort of like fallen to the ground in the dojo when they return. It's been kind of left in a slight state of disrepair. It's
Hmm.
looking a little bit weathered and a little bit beaten up. And it's clear throughout this podcast that I already said I identify more with Miyagi-Do, but I really respect this balance that these men are finding. And, well, you know, there are a lot of ways we could try to articulate this. I do think that Johnny is right that you can't let people walk all over you. You have to be able to stand up for yourself. You need to be able to strike back appropriately, not necessarily physically, but you need to be able to stand up for yourself. Um, and on a simpler level than that, it's just a really sick logo.
Mm.
And I would love to have that weathered one. It's really going to pop on my art gallery wall. So,
Amazing choice, buddy.
yeah.
Amazing choice. I had something similar. I almost considered, like, saying we're gonna cut out the section of the wall that had the strike first, no mercy, but with the spray paint on it, like the
Yes.
semi, damaged version of it. So great pick. I love that.
I
Surprised
almost
neither
picked
one of
that.
y'all went for the eagle fanged van.
I don't know if I
You didn't
do.
get y'all didn't get
I
to
don't
see
think
the
I
eagle
got to
fanged
see it.
van. Oh, yeah, so you gotta go back and watch it, man.
Man, oh man.
It
There were a
so
lot of good there
Johnny's
were
Johnny's vehicle breaks down, and he can't afford a new car. So he gets
nice.
this used minivan when he brings back, Cobra Kai. Well, he lost Cobra Kai to John Kreese, but he opens up a new one called Eagle Fang because that's badass, right? Eagle Fang, and he gets this, like, old Astro minivan, well, no, it was one of the Dodge Caravans, one of the older ones with the wood panel,
Yep, yep.
Mhm.
and he paints a eagle with fangs for Eagle Fang on it. It is beautifully very 1980s, you know, v van vibe. So but you gotta go back and watch it.
Yes,
Beautiful
we
stuff.
all know, eagles are famed for their fangs. I did just Google
Exactly.
eagle fang, to make sure that I was hearing you correctly, and,
Yeah.
I'm pleased to report it's also a scent of Old Spice from their Wild collection, in case you're wondering.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Oh, man. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a wonderful note for us to wrap up on. We got to dive deep into a three-part finale. When I do go back to watch Cobra Kai, I honestly don't even feel like I've been spoiled. I think if anything, I'm gonna get more out of what happens along the way, knowing where this journey ends, knowing that the show isn't just interested in telling jokes about Johnny Lawrence. It's interested in his arc and his redemption and his growth and not only what he needs, but what he has to offer.
Mhm.
And who do I have to thank for that? I have the chairman himself, Jeff. Uh, Jeff, it was so awesome getting to sit and chat with you. We hope that you will come back again in the future.
Anytime.
And I'm happy to report for duty to the chairman, whenever you need me. So thank you so much for being here, man. It was a blast.
I can't thank y'all both enough for the invite. I know we've kind of had this on the books for what felt like a half a year, it feels like, you know? And I'm so happy to have gotten to sit down with y'all and discuss what I consider to be one of the best three-part season finales ever written of our generation and bring that to light for y'all because
Mm.
it really is 3 episodes of cinematic small screen beauty.
Well, Jeff, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Not only was it a pleasure to meet you tonight and to pod with you, but it was a pleasure to watch these 3 episodes. So, yeah, thanks for joining us. Thank you for the homework. Can't wait to have you back. Before we wrap up for tonight, we've got one last order of business. We cannot leave the pod without awarding the honorary podling. This isn't something that we'll do
Mhm.
for every property we discuss, but Randy and I convened ahead of the recording tonight to make sure that we were on the same page because this felt like, as I said, we couldn't leave this episode without honoring somebody or someone's. Because tonight we have a shared award, much like neither Sun nor Jin were candidates on their own, but only together. Daniel Sun and Johnny Lawrence are entering as honorary podlings
Hmm.
together because they have become such a balanced pair over the course of this series. I described it to Randy earlier, something of a yin and yang. Neither of them ever left their true selves. Each of them learned from the other. They grew towards each other so that each one now carries a little part of the other inside. They are balanced together. So perfect that they end with their own dojos. So what do you think, Randy? Are we going to bring Johnny and Daniel in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said it. I think it's fitting that we each picked one of the gentlemen in this pair as our Bardo buddies. I mean, and look at how far they've come. Johnny is hugging other men and sharing his emotions. Daniel is able to
He
identify
shed tears.
flaws.
He shed
Yeah.
tears.
Daniel's able to identify flaws in the things and the people that he loves to grow from them. They are podlings through and through.
Mm,
Perfect choice.
all right. Well, thank you again to Jeff. Randy, thank you as always for leading us through a beautiful conversation tonight. And thank you to the podlings at home who are listening. If you want to engage with the pod more, hear our past episodes, stay tuned in for future episodes. And you've got to find Media Lit online. Remember to rate and to follow. But if you're looking for us, just search on YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, or Twitter. Look for Media Lit Podcast or Media Lit Pod, and you will find us. Perhaps most importantly, check out the website. There'll be links in the episode description and across all social media. There you'll find all sorts of information about the pod, past episodes, and about Randy and I together. Lastly, the inbox is open. My dear podlings, please reach out and share your thoughts with us. I would love to hear what your experience with Cobra Kai was or
Yes.
is after you watch it because you listened to this episode. So email us at media.slash.lit@gmail.com.
Chris, thank you as always for giving me a little breather at the end of the episode. You always step up and do such a great job selling Media Lit. But I can't give you a break yet because I want you to tell people what your other projects are and where else they can find you out there on the internet.
Gave me just enough time to sneak in one last sip of seltzer, bud. Aside from co-hosting Media Lit with Randy, I'm also the co-host of the Batman by the Numbers podcast with Daniel Cohen over on the Pop Break podcast feed. We typically talk all things Dark Knight. This year, we're in our world's finest era, and we've been talking Superman since January. So tune in to Batman by the Numbers to hear more of our thoughts on Superman this year. Aside from the podcast, I'm also an actor and a voice actor. I'm a father and a husband. You can find me doing those things on Instagram at Kris_Ingersoll. That's Chris spelled like Kringle.
Perfect. And I am your host, Randy Elaine. Honestly, I would just love for you to find and follow Media Lit Podcast on all those wonderful social media platforms that Chris mentioned earlier. If you find Media Lit, you'll find me too. I'm connected to all of them. I'd love a follow, but more importantly, I'd love for you to follow our podcast and write in. You can also find me over on the Pop Break podcast feed doing music podcasts. I am currently in the midst of Pod of Doom with Justin and Chris Mancini, who were kind enough to invite me on board. And I am very excited for our next project, which will be a deep dive into my favorite musician of all time, Beck Hansen. Yes, Justin was kind enough to step up to the plate and decide to dive into that discography with me. And go back and find all of my entertainment writing on the Pop Break, especially if you want to hear about Bluey or Severance. All right, we did it. Thank you for being here with us, and we will see you next time.
No mercy.